How's things, guys? How's everyone's week been? We'll just give it until about 3 or 4 minutes past just to give everyone a chance to get in before we get started.
Hey David, how are you?
Good, how are you keeping?
Yeah, doing good, man.
That's good. How's your trading week been?
Everything is going good. Actually, I have to watch advanced module yet. I'm just mastering all the basics and doing forward testing and so far with the learnings, I'm just trading little trades. So it's going good so far. Thanks for all the things that you do.
Oh, no problem. It's my pleasure. I'm glad to help you out. Yeah, no, I think it's wise to sort of master all the basics before moving on to the advanced stuff. Then once you've mastered the basics and then move on to that, it'll just take everything to a whole nother level. Like with how you understand sort of the markets and all, it'll be a game changer.
Mhm.
Hey guys,
Tomas, how's things?
how you doing, mate? Ready
Just
for
give
the
it another
webinar?
couple of minutes.
Excited for this one. Super important.
Yeah, it's something different on there. So
Matt brother is coming or
no, I don't think so. So sometimes he drops in and sort of hangs out in the background, but sometimes he doesn't. So he might be here. I'm not sure. Let's check the participants. No, he's not here yet, on it.
He's definitely taking this time to be in the background, solving some problems about the Force community, etc.
Take any trades today, Tomas?
No, I was talking with Torben. The first week of September was actually very good, but last week I don't place any trades, and this week seems to be quite slow, even though we still have Thursday and Friday, but there was no clean, not even clean price action to get involved on DAX at least. So quite few quiet weeks in September and end of August.
Yeah, it's the same across the board. I don't think there's been anything resembling a setup really on AU, and AU's sort of been very quiet as well. So
yeah, I think it's important just to put everything in perspective and to give us confidence to raise QTH, which is, in my opinion, what it means, like just 10%, for example, in the end of the month, of 2-3 winners, or even one winner if you take one or 10 arm, and put that in perspective with what you need and large funds, etc. If you're trading.
That's exactly it. Right, so I'll share my screen now. It's gonna be more of a lecture format, sort of. Again, we've never done this sort of thing before, so we'll try it out and then we'll see what the feedback's like and maybe adjust it or whatever. But can everyone see that okay?
Yeah.
let's go.
Right. So mindset, it's a topic that's particularly close to my heart because sort of I realized that a lot of stuff that was holding me back in trading was sort of stuff that held me back in everyday life. So when I sort of came to the realization of how powerful like mindset, mental strategies, whatever you want to call it is, it's like I went over the deep end and sort of started massively researching, like, reading all the books, all that sort of stuff. So it's had a massive impact on my life as well as my trading. So that's why I sort of thought I would put this together just to see if you take some value from it. This is designed to be more sort of a general overview as opposed to like a definitive sort of course or something like that. But if you enjoy this sort of thing and you enjoy sort of the content, etc., we'll look at maybe putting together like a more definitive sort of series of workshops where we cover sort of the individual topics more in depth, maybe like do up some worksheets, etc., give homework where we all sort of share our findings, etc. But we'll crack on now on it. And if you have any questions or anything, or you just want to share your own experiences, like if something resonates with you, if you feel comfortable doing that, feel free to interrupt me. We want this to be sort of as interactive as possible. Like we don't just want it to be me sort of rambling for an hour. So right, so you have two key components to being a trader, which is basically the trader's mindset and the technical ability. Which do you think is more important? So if you type A for mindset or B for technical ability, I'll be interested to see what people say here. Yeah. Yeah, I agree with the people that are saying A and B, because it's like for me, it's 80% mental and 20% technical, because I think that's, if you have the trader's mindset nailed down, I think you can comfortably sort of change strategies. Like it'll only take you, like say you want to learn another strategy, you should be able to pick that up in 3 or 6 months. So I think mental is more important, but equally without one, the other is obsolete, because like it doesn't matter if you can't identify a setup, it's like, it doesn't matter how good your mindset is. So you have to sort of develop the two in unison, because yeah, as I say, one without the other is completely pointless. So Conor McGregor and Nate Diaz, you're probably wondering what Conor McGregor and Nate Diaz have to do with trading. But the analogy I sort of use with mindset and technical ability is sort of MMA, where basically you have two key components to being a great MMA fighter. You basically have the technical skills, and then you have the cardio. And if any is follow MMA, you'll remember the first Conor McGregor Nate Diaz fight. McGregor was on the rise, he was at the peak of his powers, and like Conor McGregor, he just has, I think Joe Rogan called it the touch of death in his left hand. He was just born with incredible power, and he's an incredible striker. And he went out and he boxed ahead of Nate Diaz for 2 rounds, but then he completely gassed himself out. And Nate Diaz came back to win. Basically, he submitted him with a rear naked choke purely because Conor McGregor ran out of gas. So that's why, in the same way as in MMA, there's technical skills and cardio, in trading, there is technical skills and mindset. So it's like the fighter can have Conor McGregor's left hand and any other innate physical gifts like Khabib's wrestling, whatever. But if they can't last the distance, if you can weather the storm, then they can lose somebody with inferior skills, which is exactly what happened with McGregor and Diaz. Quite simply because the tiredness prevents them from being able to effectively showcase their skills, use their physical gifts, which is exactly what happened with Conor McGregor. It's like all the power was gone out of his left hand because he ran out of gas. And similarly to trading, cardiovascular capacity can be developed through hard work. It's like, yes, people might have more of a gift for cardio. They might have more of like a naturally high VO2 max, whatever, but it can be developed through hard work, which is the exact same in mindset. It's like, there's some incredible technical analysts that I would probably never be able to match their level of technical skill, but you can work on your mindset, and it's a constant sort of process doing that. And then obviously physical gifts, it doesn't matter how hard I train, I'm never going to have Conor McGregor's left hand or Khabib's wrestling, just because they have that incredible natural skill. So then there are two key components to being a great trader. So then everyone knows the analogy trader versus analyst. You can be an excellent technical analyst, but if you don't develop the trader's mindset, then you will struggle to extract profits from the market. Like MMA, a brilliant technical analyst may be less profitable than another trader with inferior skills, but a better developed mindset, purely because you might be able to read the price action perfectly, but you might struggle to deal with the uncertainty that is inherent with trading. So an underdeveloped mindset will make it much harder for a trader to flawlessly execute their trading plan. And then trading is essentially, it's the art of embracing uncertainty. We must accept that the outcome is outside of our control and instead focus on executing our processes, as ultimately all we can control is ourselves. So yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say there. That's sort of the analogy I also use whenever I try to explain to people the importance of mindset, was basically the MMA. So I just thought I'd throw that in at the start. So what is a trader's mindset? Great Mark Douglas quote: "You create your own game in your mind based on your beliefs, intents, perception, and rules." So I think that pretty much sums it up in one quote, because it's like, at the end of the day, the markets are completely neutral. The markets are just information. And it's like, you know, if you feel threatened or you feel fear or you feel greed, it's like, that's coming from you. It's not the market that's creating those emotions. It's you that's generating them. So I define a trader's mindset as the operating system we use to interact with the markets. And the reason why I call it an operating system is that if you think of iOS or Android or Mac OS, any other operating system, it is the thing that controls everything else. So the technical strategy is like your apps, that's your TradingView app or your Notion app. And it's like, but basically they don't work without the operating system. So that's why I sort of define it as a operating system. What you have to understand is the financial markets, they're a unique environment. It's like, it's hard. Maybe you could use like the blackjack gambling analogies, but it's like, there's very few basically environments that are like the financial markets, because like they offer you unlimited opportunity. It's like, in theory, now we all know this is theory and it's not real, it's not practical, but like there's unlimited opportunities. Like you can literally open your broker account at any time of any day, even if you want to trade crypto the weekends now, and in theory you can make money, which is like, it's unlike anything else. Like nothing else offers you that opportunity. You've complete freedom of expression. It's like you can literally do whatever you want. It's like you are free to hit buy and sell whenever you want. So there's very, you know, it's like with social programming, you know, a lot of the freedom of expression is sort of beaten out of you. Like, you know, when you're in school or working jobs or whatever, it's like you have to sort of conform to societal norms. So again, the financial markets, you can do whatever you want. And then it's an inherently uncertain environment. It's like, you know, we all know, thinking in probabilities, it's like we can execute our plan and we can execute the exact same setup on 2 different days, and one might be a winner and one might be a loser, because no 2 exact moments in the markets are the same. Because for them to be the same, you would need all the same participants with the exact same intention at the exact same time, which is literally, it's physically impossible for it to ever happen. So that's just the uncertainty of the markets. The human brain, it's very important to understand how your brain is programmed and how it works. It's like, it's evolved over millions of years with the primary goal of ensuring our survival. And the human beings are the predominant race or predominant species in the world. So like, it's done a brilliant job at that. It's like we've evolved through all the generations and we are the dominant species on the planet. So it's done a fantastic job of that. But our brains are not wired for success. They're wired for survival. And it's very important to understand that, because if you approach the financial markets with the same brain that you basically approach everyday life with, or that has been programmed by social programming, you know, school and family, etc., then you'll more than likely fail. It doesn't matter how good an analyst you are, because you have to understand how your brain works and why it is not suited to financial markets. So we must recognize this and accept that we'll have to work on changing how we think if we were to achieve success in the markets. And then another important thing to note is the vast majority of what goes on in our brains is at a subconscious level. So awareness is key. It's like, you know, millions of years ago, if we were being attacked by an animal on the grasslands, it's like your brain, it's like if a lion is coming running at you, it's like you don't stop and think, oh, I better run. It's like, it's an instantaneous reaction. It's like your subconscious takes over. It's fight or flight. It's like, and again, that's part of the reason why we have evolved. But again, that sort of subconscious thinking, fear, it's just, it doesn't work in the markets, and you need to understand that. So for me, basically, it's self-image. Your self-image dictates your actions and your emotions, which ultimately dictates your outcome. So yeah, it's very important to understand how self-image and then the actions and emotions sort of link in to ultimately come out with the outcomes, because this was sort of the absolute game changer for me, understanding the importance of my self-image. And yeah, basically you might wonder why you self-sabotage, why you mess things up, and it's invariably because of your self-image. And then obviously emotions and actions, outcomes. So that's a pretty handy diagram to sort of sum it all up. Your self-image, an incredible book for anyone interested in trading is With Winning in Mind. It's incredibly simple, it's incredibly short, and everyone should read it, because it breaks down these concepts basically the concept of performance and self-image, etc. It breaks it down into simple bite-sized pieces, and it's absolutely incredible. So Lanny Bassam, the author, said the principle of balance: when the conscious, subconscious, and self-image are all balanced and working together, good performance is easy. So the self-image, it is essentially the beliefs you hold about yourself as a person. And again, that's sort of, these beliefs, they can be either positive, empowering, or negative, limiting. And that's the thing, everyone will have like a combination of limiting and empowering beliefs. And it's like, it's understanding, sort of, it's being able to identify which ones are holding you back and which ones help you, and sort of being able to limit the damage of the negative and increase the power of the positive. Develop these beliefs in a number of ways, or achievements or lack thereof. You know, it's like, if you were the sort of, if when you were a kid, if you were brilliant at sport and you're being told, or you're brilliant at school and you're constantly being told, oh, you're top of the class, you're the best footballer on your team, then you're going to have a positive self-image. Whereas if you're the opposite of that, if you weren't the best at school, or if you weren't the best at football, say you were the last one picked or whatever, then that can give you an extremely negative self-image, because you think that it's basically, it's not like you to be successful. Our life experiences, again, can be both positive and negative. It depends. Like, we've all been through stuff, positive and negative, and it all stays with you. And then social conditioning is basically what other people have instilled in us. Like, parents, teachers, friends. It's like all that stuff sort of stays inside you at a subconscious level, because your subconscious is always looking out for threats. So if you had a bad experience, your subconscious is going to be like constantly on the lookout to avoid that experience again. So like, you might think you've left something in the past, but your subconscious can be holding on to that. And if it sees the perceived threat coming up again, then it'll fight or flight will kick in, and you'll do it, you'll try to avoid it, which is obviously, if you've had experiences of, losing money trading, then that's where fear can come in, because it's your subconscious telling you that, oh no, I've lost money here before, I felt really bad about it, I better avoid this, so you don't take the trade. And then self-image is incredibly important when it comes to trading performance. Our subconscious minds perform in line with our self-image. That's sort of the biggest thing that Lanny Bassam teaches. He was an Olympic shooter, so I don't know exactly how it works, but he's saying that whatever the scores are, let's just say 75 out of 100, he says that if you believe that you are a 75 out of 100 shooter, then you will perform in line with that, because that's your self-image. So he says, like, you might start off really well and you might be on course for a 90, but then your subconscious will sort of say, all right, we're going a bit too well here, and then sort of ease off, just to basically, because you perform in line with your self-image. So you think 75 is your number, so your subconscious is going to alter your performance over the course of the game to make that number. And it's like, do you believe you're a 5% a month trader? If so, your subconscious will perform in line with this. Like, I'm sure, like, we've all had months where you start off really well, and then you subconsciously sort of take your foot off the gas then, because you're sort of like, oh, well, it made me money for the month, I'm happy. But then, doing that, like, the market moves in cycles. Is like, there might be 30% this month, and then there might be nothing for the next 2 months. So you have to sort of remain you can't let your image of yourself affect how you interact with the markets. You have to sort of just take the markets as they are and trade accordingly. So our self-image influences our emotions and actions, which ultimately determine the outcome we achieve. And then the human brain is wired to seek certainty in the outcome of a given situation, because again, it comes down to your subconscious. Like, the brain is designed to keep you alive. So it's like, if you're saying, right, I'm going to jump off this cliff, and there's like a 50-50 chance that you're going to die, it's like your brain's going to try and talk you out of that, because it wants to keep you alive. And then that obviously applies to trading as well, because there might be a 50-50 chance that we're going to win or lose. So that's the thing, is like, if you're jumping off a cliff and there's a 50-50 chance, you're unlikely to embrace probabilistic thinking. But with trading, you just have to think over a large sample size, does this edge play out, and act accordingly. Uncertainty tells our brain that its survival may be in question, which leads to heightened emotions and impaired judgment, which may lead to poor quality decisions and ultimately unfavorable outcomes, which obviously in trading is losing money or not making as much money as we could have. The financial markets, they're a bastion of uncertainty. It's like, as I mentioned earlier, it's like no two moments are the same. So we must think probabilistically and accept the outcome of every trade is completely random, and trust our edge to play out over a large enough sample size. So how does our self-image negatively affect our trading outcomes? Now, obviously, this is if you have a poor self-image, which everyone will have something to work on in their self-image. It predominantly manifests itself in two ways, which are greed and fear. These are the two most common negative emotions that affect our trading outcomes. Like these sort of the two that sort of tie everything else together. So they're sort of the two most important to focus on at this point. Greed, we'll start with it. Greed is more dangerous than fear, in my opinion, because it can result in serious drawdown. It's like fear, sort of, you're reluctant to place a trade, which, while it messes up your returns over large sample size, like you are technically preserving capital. Whereas with greed, like if you start chasing the markets, like you can find yourself 5, 6, 7, whatever % in drawdown, which is obviously not a good place to be. Because like if you don't, like say you don't take a trade, it banks 10 or right, it in banks 10 or, but you still have the same capital to go again. Whereas if you lose 6 or 7 trades in a row, then it's going to take you a bit of time to get that back. So greed usually manifests itself in the following ways: fear of missing out, FOMO, we're all familiar with it; over trading, risking too much and varying risk per trade, increasing the stop loss in an open trade, adjusting profit target when a trade is running in profit, and revenge trading. And then again, how does this tie into self-image? Well, if you've low self-esteem, or you don't think it's like you to be profitable in the markets, like you can have a tendency to seek positive validation from the markets, which is basically you want the market, you want to make money, you want a buying percentage from the markets because you want the market to show you that you are good enough to beat the market, that you're worthy of success as a trader. And you ultimately have to remember, like, the market is just information. It's completely neutral. It does not care who you are or what your desires are. So it's pretty stupid to sort of get in there, try and get in a battle with it, try and expect it to, to tell you you're worthy of success. Like ultimately, you're the only one that can decide if you're worthy of success by the work you put in. So we'll go through sort of all these individual topics. Fear of missing out. Obviously, our desire to extract profits in the market leads us to take trades that do not fully meet the criteria of the plan. Like, our sole job as traders is to consistently execute our trading plan, which if we back tested it, we know will provide us with an edge over time. So yeah, you're taking trades that do not fully meet your plan will only lead to negative outcomes, which is probably drawdown. So it's like, we've all had that experience where we're, say, price, it almost reaches your M15 POI, but it doesn't quite get there. And then you get the pretty clean entry model, you get the chalk, whatever, and then you enter, and then you take the loss, and price pushes up to mitigate the M15 POI. It's like, that was pure fear of missing out. It's like you had a, say, bearish thesis. You're waiting on price to hit your M15 supply to look for an entry, but it didn't quite get there. But you were worried price was going to go without you, so you jumped in there prematurely and ended up taking a loss. And then obviously, in and of itself, one loss is not going to hinder you too much. But the issue is when price pushes up into the M15 POI and you've taken the loss and the entry model presents again, are you going to hit it? And it's like, if you have the psychology to hit it, that's great. But it's sort of, a lot of people don't have that. A lot of people basically, when they take the loss, they basically forget about the trade, or even worse, chase it even more, and then end up taking 2 or 3 losses only for the POI not to play out. So that's FOMO. And FOMO, obviously, it's fear as well. So there is some overlap between these topics. But yeah, that's FOMO. We've all sort of experienced it. We don't want to miss out in the move that we sort of forecasted, so we don't follow our plan, which obviously is never a good thing. Over trading is pretty apt at the minute because the markets, particularly in EU and AU, have been pretty challenging for the last sort of 5 weeks. So you have to understand the market moves in cycles. Every strategy will have good periods and bad periods. It's like, whenever I first started trading this strategy, I remember the old Falcon strategy, it was almost a joke with how badly it was performing, just because the markets had changed post-COVID, whereas now it seems to be working well again. So you just have to understand that you've good and bad periods. Like, those periods might last weeks, months, or even years. So it's crucial that our desire to make money, which is ultimately what greed is, does not trick us into forcing trades when markets are quiet. It's like the last 5-6 weeks have been quiet, but the great traders understand the value of being able to comfortably sit in their hands. Like, yeah, the great traders are probably down a couple or maybe banked one winner, whereas sort of the amateurs who let their greed dictate their actions, they will probably be down. They could be down 10 or 20 or because they forced it whenever the market conditions weren't there. Like I know over the last 5 weeks, there's a few occasions where everything lined up sort of in the M15 for our perfect conditions, but I just couldn't manage to get in a trade. It's like took a couple of losses, a couple of break evens, and what it is, what it is. These things happen. And yes, during the quiet periods that great traders earn their money basically by not giving their profits back to market. Because like, you know, you can see it in the Discord, like when the markets are good, everyone can bank money. It's like, it's simple. Everyone can bank 30-40% when the markets are good, but it's just the trick is to not give the majority of it back. And then when you give the majority of it back, is that when you start saying, oh, this strategy doesn't work anymore? And you sort of start blaming the markets for you not, basically you trying to force your greed, force your will on the markets. But yeah, overtrading some everyone battles with to an extent, particularly when they're learning. Like it does take time to learn to sit in your hands and experience, crucially. So risking too much and varying risk per trade. So obviously lines up with sort of leverage as well. You know, if you're trading small capital, you know, there's always the temptation there, you know, that you're going to risk, you know, too much per trade and attempt to make money. Like say you're only trading €1,000 and you might say, right, well, there's not much point me only risking €10 per trade. So you say, right, I'm going to risk 50. So you're risking 5% of your capital. And then like, just because if whenever you bank 10 or you want to bank the €500 whatever, as opposed to 1,000, but then obviously it's a double-edged sword because when you're losing money, you're losing more too. So it's counterproductive. And anything over 1% too much is too much, in my opinion. I would recommend sticking to 0.5 or even lower until you've sort of been consistent for 5 or 6 months, because it's easy with this strategy when, you know, when the markets are good, you know, you think you can bank 10, 20 or a month, but then when the markets aren't good and you don't really know how to spot those characteristics, you can basically give a lot of profit back and take a huge losing streak, which is obviously not good if you're risking 5% per trade, because you can easily lose 50% of your account in 10 trades. And then there's varying risk as well, which is insanity, because obviously we're playing a probability model here. Basically, this is a high return strategy. So, you know, we're looking at 5 to 1, 10 to 1. So the probability model is in our favor. We don't need that high a strike rate. You know, if you're banking 10 or per trade and your strike rate is 20%, you're still going to be profitable. But yeah, what happens is, you know, you see people, they increase their risk after a series of winners, thinking that they've solved the market. So, you know, you might have a great month, you might bank 20%, risking 1%, and then you think, oh, this is easy. All right, well, I'm gonna risk 2%, so next month I'll make 40%. But then what happens is you have a bad month and you've given the majority of your 20% month back because you increase the risk because you think you've solved the market. Similarly, increasing risk after a series of losers, trying to make the money back in one trade. You know, you might take 5 losses and then there's a setup comes that you really like. You might say, oh, well, I'll just risk 5% in this trade and then I'll comfortably make all my money back and more. So again, that's not good. And then equally as dangerous is decreasing risk after a series of losses, because again, it messes the probability models. Like if you've lost, say, 5% risk and 1%, then you drop your risk down to 0.5%, then it's going to take you a lot longer to make that money back. And then like you never know the sequence of your wins and losses. So like you might drop down to 0.5% and then you might bank your 10 or, and literally that would have been you back in profit comfortably, whereas now you're pretty much just back to break even. But I should caveat as well that, you know, if you're struggling, maybe you should decrease your risk, but that's obviously if you're not confident in your edge yet. That was when that would sort of apply. I think if you're more confident in your edge, then you really just have to back yourself to let it play out. You know, if you've been consistent for a while, you just have to stick with it, because like at the end of the day, 1% risk is nothing as long as you don't completely lose the plot and start hitting everything. Increasing or removing stop loss on an open position is like, again, we've all been there. It's like you really like an M15 POI, you've been waiting for the POI to be hit, entry model sets up, and then say, right, you enter in the flip on the M1, and then I'd say it runs into a bit of profit. You haven't got to break even yet, and it's coming back up towards your stop loss. And there is a temptation there to like remove the stop loss or to maybe increase the stop loss to, like, say you only covered the flip with your stop loss and then you decide to cover the high. again, never a good thing to do, particularly removing your stop loss, because again, you've high conviction in a trade playing out, so you just want to avoid it. So you don't want to miss out on it. So again, it's FOMO, fear of missing out. You don't want to miss out in the move, so you just basically give the trade more room than you initially planned, because we should always know we place our stop in an area, in a technical area which should be protected. So it doesn't really make sense to change it in the trade. We should always know our exit point, our entry point, our stop loss before we go in, and changing it sort of in the moment is never a good thing. It's usually dictated by emotions. It all comes down to like the pain of getting stopped out and price eventually moving in the direction of a trade is too much. So we increase our risk on the trade, which isn't good, because the M15, say you remove your stop loss and the M15 POI fails and pushes up higher, and then all of a sudden you've lost 5-10% of trade just because you're scared of losing 1% and the market proving you were wrong. So never a good thing. Again, adjusting profit target. We've all been here. It's like the temptation's there every time for me, where it's like you get in a trade, you've identified your profit target, whether it's 5 or 10 or technical target, whatever it is. And you get in the trade, it's running well, it's absolute rocket, taps the entry and goes. And then, you're euphoric because you feel as though the market is validating you that, you're a good trader, you're making money, you're going to be a millionaire. But the temptation then can be, oh, well, this is absolutely flying. It's like, I'm going to change my 10-hour profit target to a 20-hour profit target, and I'm going to double my money, because again, the more money I make, oh, that's the market validating me by saying, oh, you're brilliant, you didn't even make 10 or you made 20 or there. But at the end of the day, not following your plan is never a good idea. And then say you adjust your profit target from 10 to 15 or 10 to 20, whatever it is, and then price reverses and takes you out for break even. So instead of getting your 10 or and following your plan, more importantly than banking the profits, you end up getting taken out for break even, because you let your greed dictate your decision making rather than following the mechanical rules in your plan. So that's another way greed can manifest, and I think that's one that we all sort of struggle with. When a trade's running well, it is easy to sort of get caught up in the emotions. And then revenge trading, again, we've all been there. Definitely myself in my early days. Thankfully, I've sort of learned to temper it a good bit. Sort of, I'll explain sort of a bit more detail how I did that sort of later on. But when things are not going well, when you've taken a few losses, you've had a quiet few months, which again is pretty apt at the moment because it's been a quiet few months. When things aren't going well, we throw the plan out the window and start taking every trade that remotely meets our plan. So it's like, you hit every M1 chalk and every M15 POI that remotely makes sense. And it's like, if you do that, it's like, yeah, it can be profitable over a huge sample size. But when the markets are sort of choppy as they have been, you're going to end up taking 10 to 20 losses in a row, which is obviously not good. And then when you're driven by your desperation to make money and the need for positive validation from the markets, basically you start forcing things. It's like anyone who's ever experienced this, like it's like an outer body experience. It's like you don't even realize what you're doing, and then you sort of, the dust settles and you look back at the day and say you're down 4 or 5 or whatever, you've broken your max loss per day just because you're so desperate to make the money back that you look back, it's like, what was I doing there? It's like, it's complete stupidity. But it's like you're just that consumed by the greed and the need for profit and the need for validation that you just don't even know what you're doing. And it's like the most important thing is like, look, this happens to everybody. If it happens to you, if it has happened recently, if it happens soon, the most important thing is not to just bury your head in the sand about it. You have to sort of use it as an opportunity to learn, sort of understand, what caused it, what were you thinking when this was happening? And then that way you can sort of spot the signs as to when you maybe are not in the best frame of mind to trade and when you maybe will be as well taking the day off, whatever. So move on to fear now. Again, it's completely natural. It's designed to protect us from perceived threats in our environment, which again obviously comes back to like the humans have evolved over millions of years. So a million years ago it might have been getting attacked by an animal. These days it might be getting run down by a car. It's like your subconscious is always alert for threats in the environment. However, operating from a place of fear will result in you taking actions that are counterproductive to your goal of being a consistently profitable trader. Because again, it's like it all comes down to uncertainty. It's like the markets are uncertain. the outcome of every trade is random, no certainty there. So you just have to learn to temper your fear and sort of trade in spite of it as opposed to because of it. It will primarily impact our ability to execute valid setups that meet the criteria in our plans, but also can affect our trade management. So yeah, that's the main thing. Is like, that's why I said fear is not as dangerous as greed, because generally results in capital preservation is like you don't make on and you don't lose on them. Whereas, you know, if you start revenge trading because of greed, then you can end up losing 5, 6, 7, whatever, or which is what it takes a long time to make that back. So thinking in probabilities is pretty much the key to overcoming fear. It's like you just have to accept that every outcome is random and that over a large sample size, you're going to come out ahead. That's the only way. It's the only operating system, I think, or it's the most important component of the operating system that you interact with the markets, because if you can't think probabilistically, it's like it's going to be very hard for you to be profitable over a large sample size. So the main ways that fear manifests itself in our trading is fear of losing money, fear of being wrong, fear of missing out, fear of the unknown, and then fear of giving profit back to the market. So we'll go through these sort of individually now. Fear of losing money. I got a new trading book there last week. I haven't started reading it yet, but it's basically called The Best Loser Wins. And I think it pretty much sums up trading, because it's like we're professional loss takers at the end of the day. It's like you have to be able to take those losses and not let it affect you. You just have to be able to brush it off and say, oh, it's just the probabilities playing out. Because if you start letting the losses get inside your head, then that's going to lead to you missing the winners, which messes the whole probability model up. But obviously, Best Loser Wins, professional loss taker, it's completely counterintuitive, because we're all in trading to make money. It's like nobody's here because we love looking at charts all day. Like, we're all here to make money. Again, goes against our primal need for certainty, because obviously our subconscious mind wants basically to know that something is gonna, that we basically have, that something's gonna work out. And sort of when you're taking a trade and you literally know, right, there's a good setup, but it could go either way, that sort of goes against that need for certainty. Ultimately, we don't execute trades that fit our plan because we fear taking a loss, or we prematurely move our stop loss to break even. You know, it's like we've all been there. Like I personally partial 25% at 4 order, remove risk, and then, you know, it's like we've all been there. Trade moves away, runs 2 or 3 or, but then starts to retrace, and the temptation's always there to move your stop to break even, just to remove your risk. And you know, it's a dangerous one, because in the moment you can make the right decision. It's like, you know, I might move myself to break even and then save myself from a loss, and I think, oh, that's great. It's like I acted from my gut and I got an outcome that I wanted. But you have to accept that over a large sample size, that's going to mess you up, because in a lot of occasions, price can just come back and basically, you know, your entry might have been a newly created supply zone in the M1, and basically price comes back and mitigates that and then continues in the direction. Whereas, so you should basically bank 10 or whatever, but you end up taking a break even, which is obviously missing out in the 10 or is equally as dangerous, as possibly even more dangerous than losing one or. So again, you just have to think in probabilities and just embrace the uncertainty as much as possible. Fear of being wrong. This one was an eye-opener for me, because whenever I was sort of learning how to trade, and yeah, when I was learning how to trade, I was basically trading a small amount of capital. It's like I didn't even really, it's like I was happy to lose it. Like I knew what I was doing with it. Like I was happy to lose it just with the goal of learning how to trade. So whenever I would sort of make mistakes sort of in line of fear, whether I was moving my stop loss prematurely, not taking a trade, it's like I couldn't really understand it, because like I don't care about the money. You know, the money's an insignificant amount of money to me. But what there is there's the fear of being wrong, which again ties into your self-image. Like if you have low self-esteem, and if you were told when you were growing up that you weren't good enough, you know, you weren't worthy of success, you know, the markets, if you get tagged out for a loss, then that is the market, that can be you can perceive that as the market telling you that you're not good enough. So you try to avoid that, basically to avoid the sort of deep-rooted issues from when you were younger or whatever. So then, yeah, we don't execute trades that fit our plan because you're scared of the market proving us wrong. Or we prematurely move our stop loss to break even, which used to happen to me all the time whenever we traded the old strategy in Photon. It was much more of a swing strategy. We executed in the 1 hour, and basically one of our management strategies was we'd manage the trade in the 4 hour, basically where you'd wait for a 4 hour lower high to form or higher low, and then you would trail your stop behind that. And yeah, the amount of times like I would end up breaking my plan, plain and simple, and moving my stop to break even. And then, yeah, sometimes I would save myself from taking the loss, but then other times price would just take me out and then tank. So yeah, that was just purely me. I didn't want to take a loss. And you know, again, you have to think in probabilities. It's like we know we're going to be right 50% of the time, but the fact is, if we follow our plan, we're right 100% of the time, because that's ultimately all that matters. Fear of missing out, again, covered it already, ties into fear and greed. You know, if we miss a potential setup that plays out, we see this as the market's telling us that we're not good enough. So again, that's whenever you're forcing trades that aren't quite ready. You know, they're not fully developed, they don't fully meet your plan, but you don't want to miss that move because you forecasted the move. And if you miss it, you basically, that's an assault on your self-image. So again, you take questionable trades that don't fit your plan, and then it ultimately leads to an undesired outcome, which is obviously losing money. And yeah, you know, it can lead to a spiral of revenge trading as well. So it's an important one to be aware of. Fear of losing money, again, is already covered that one. Yeah, fear of the unknown. This is something that, again, everyone struggles with, because like when you're starting out, when you're learning how to trade, it's like you haven't proven to yourself yet that you can be profitable. You know, it's like me saying I'm going to enter a snooker tournament and play against Ronnie O'Sullivan. It's like I don't know I can do that until I actually do it. So it can be brilliant in practice, but until I actually set foot in the arena, I don't know that I can do it. So when we're starting out, we do, you know, yeah, you want to be a profitable trader. You think you have what it takes, but you don't actually know you can do it consistently until you do it. So obviously this can lead to hesitation in execution, particularly after a string of losses. You know, you're starting out, it's like you haven't banked that much profit yet. You take 4 or 5 losses, and then you start thinking, oh, maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe this plan doesn't work. And you start doubting yourself, and then you missed a couple of winners to come after that, which again is disastrous. Yeah, back testing can help with this, but nothing compares to doing it in the live market, again, purely because of the emotions that are involved. You know, it's like you can have people that can bank thousands of percent in back testing, but then they can't do it in the live market because they take a few losses, then they missed a few winners, and it messes up. Obviously, the simplest tip here is to, when you're starting out, is like, don't go for a challenge or don't start risking ridiculous capital. Just reduce the risk way down, 0.1%, whatever, and just focus on taking every trade. And then over a sample size of whatever, 20, 30, 50, however many you want, you will see that you're profitable. And then this is whenever you realize, right, I can actually do this. So that's when the fear of unknown goes. Fear of giving profit back to the market, again, it's like if you have that greed that basically you want profit, it's easy to basically break your management plan and cut our winners short, basically because we don't want to risk giving profit back to the market. You know, say we banked, say our profit target is 10 or, and we're running 7, 8 or, and then price starts to pull back and we're at break even. And you know, it's easy then to start thinking, oh, well, you know, pulls back to 5 or, and you're sort of thinking, right, this could take me out for break even. So you close the trade there. And yeah, ultimately it's just short-term pullback, and then it runs on a 10 or. It's like that's just pure fear of, you're attached to the monetary amount, you're attached to, you know, you want that positive validation, whereas we all know it's like all that matters is following your plan, letting the edge play out. You know, running profits are irrelevant. All that counts is following your management plan. You know, if your profit target is 10 or 5 or whatever, it's like it literally doesn't matter if you're running 4.5 or 9 or on price pulls back. It's like all that matters is that you followed your plan, because at the end of the day, that's your edge over time. It's like you don't know, it's like you can't predict the price is going to reverse at 9 or, because you're basically, your data is at 10 or is the profit target. Those of you that watch Billions, Charles Rhodes Sr., you have to get it in the boat before you can hang it in the wall. That was the Ice Juice short. Anyone that watched that, I thought it was pretty apt. You know, it's like running profits don't matter. You know, on occasions you'll be right to do that. You know, you'll bank your 5 or, but then price pull back and take you out for break even or a loss. But obviously that can be positive reinforcement. Then every time it happens, you're tempted to do it, because your body, your subconscious again remembers that, oh, the last time this happened, I banked 5 or instead of taking a break even. Whereas, you know, you just have to trust. You've done your back test and you have your data. You just have to trust that the individual trades are irrelevant, that over time, basically, your management plan is going to give you the optimal return on the strategy. So what can we do about this? Like, what can we do about self-image, fear, greed, how it manifests in our trading, etc.? So a great book is Atomic Habits by James Clear, and he says, every action you take is a vote for the type of person you wish to become. No single instance will transform your beliefs, but as the votes build up, so does the evidence of your new identity. This is one reason why meaningful change does not require radical change. Small habits can make a meaningful difference by providing evidence of a new identity. And if a change is meaningful, it is actually big. That's the paradox of making small improvements. So that's the thing. It's like, it's the small, it's, you know, you're not magically one day gonna show up in the markets and greed and fear is going to be gone. It's just like, it's the constant sort of evolution of, you know, not giving into it and sort of being aware of the emotions, being aware of how it affects you, being aware of the signs, and sort of, as you sort of learn to do that, and you have to sort of consciously try and focus on doing it at the start, but then as you do that, basically you're casting votes for the profitable trader you want to become. So ultimately, the, you know, the temptation to move your stop to break even or not take a trade or whatever will dissipate, because basically the small wins have all added up. Another great quote, Jim Gavin, he was the Dublin GA manager. I think they won 5 or 6 All-Irons in a row, which is like a record. And he's in the military as well. He's an officer in the Irish Army. So military people have a lot of, I really value their sort of input on like all mindset stuff and sort of processes and things like that. So he says, you don't always rise to the level of expectations, you fall to the level of training you put in. So you might want to be a great trader, you might think you're a great trader, but if you haven't put the effort in, you know, you haven't worked on the kinks in your mindset, then, you know, you're going to fall basically to that level, which is why you might, you know, you might go into a month with great intentions, but at the end of the month, you might not have got the returns you want. And ultimately it's because you haven't put the effort into get to the level that you need to get to. So first of all, building awareness is absolutely key, because as I said earlier, you've all been there where you revenge trade through greed, you take 4, 5, 6, 7, whatever losses in a row, and then you look back and it's an out of body experience. You don't even realize it happened. So you have to be aware of how your actions influence your self-image. First of all, basically the little things can massively influence the outcome of the bigger things. So like if you're the sort of person that like messes about, you know, you go out drinking every weekend, you I don't know, you do whatever, you know, you don't exercise, you don't eat well. It's like if you think that you're going to show up at your trading desk for the London session or New York session or every trade and suddenly be super disciplined, it's like it's not going to happen, because as James Clear says, every action is a vote for the person you want to become. So like you have to be aware of how you carry yourself in everyday life. It's like I was on a stag party over in London, not last weekend, the weekend before, and it genuinely took me a week to get over. Just I wasn't there. It was like I was at the desk, but I wasn't fully present. And it's like I messed about for the weekend. It was a great weekend. Saw a lot of friends I hadn't seen in a long time. It was completely worth it. But it's like you can't do it every weekend. It's like I was supposed to be going over to the Eubank Ben fight in a couple of weeks, and I've literally cancelled it because like I can't deal with another week of being barely there. So you know, you just have to honor, and like that's not to say you can't have a life, but you just sort of have to understand how the little, you know, how a weekend away can negatively affect your performance. Because at the end of the day, if you work a job, you work in an office and you go away for the weekend and you come back and you're only operating at 50%, you still get paid. Whereas if you're only operating at 50% trading, you're not making money, or you possibly losing money. So and then the second place where awareness is key is you have to be aware of how your emotions can negatively impact your plan. You negatively impact your ability to execute your plan. So processes, which again is tied into what Jim Gavin says about training. You know, you have to know your processes and just ruthlessly execute them. And once you execute them more often than not, then you're going to come out ahead. And then again, just to tie in with how the little things affect the big things, consistency of inputs equals consistency of income. Inputs equals consistency of outcomes. So again, it's like you're not going to just magically turn up to your trading desk and make 10% a month if your personal life's a mess, if you're messing about. So that's basically all that's linked to. So very simple. Start to win the day. Just 3 to 5 tasks on a to-do list. start small and build from there. And perfect is the enemy of good. So again, like just 3 tasks, it might be, you know, it might be completely trading related, there might be other things in there, you know, you might have 3 trading tasks and 2 general tasks. Like, you know, you might have said, do my post-session markups, do my pre-session markups, go to the gym, hit my macros, whatever it is. Start small. It's like, if you haven't done this, don't straight away, like it's tempting to sort of jump in and say, oh, I'm gonna do 10 things today, but it's not sustainable, particularly if you're going from 0. And yeah, it's like perfect is the enemy of good. So just focus on doing what you can do. Like, you know, if you can only, you know, people come in to Photon and say, oh, I'm going to study for 4 hours a day after my job. But it's like, yeah, you might do that for 2 or 3 days and then you're burnt out. Whereas you would have been better off just doing an hour a day consistently. Because again, if you set the intention of doing 3 hours a day and then you don't do that, that's again, you sort of basically telling your subconscious mind that, oh, well, I don't do what I said I'm going to do. You know, basically, I'm not worthy of success. I'm messing about. So that's just win the day, just a small to-do list, whatever you want on it, start small. Understand the power of regularly doing things you don't want to do to build discipline. Again, this is something that's pretty counterintuitive in modern life. It's like, you know, like I used to hate exercising and all that sort of stuff, whereas now it's like I sort of can't go a day, particularly during the week, without sort of doing a bit of training, because I understand the discipline of it. And it's like building discipline, because like I know that every time I do something I don't want to do, that I'm basically telling myself that, right, I am the sort of person that does what needs to be done as opposed to what I want to do. And then ultimately just become the sort of person who does what they said they're going to do. And then again, when you're constantly reinforcing that, that's whenever sort of your trading results will improve, because you're showing up to the desk in a good place. Meditation will be very good. Joe Dispenza's I particularly like. It's very much focused on the subconscious mind, as opposed to, it's like you're rewiring your subconscious mind. You're focusing on the person you want to be and the person you don't want to be, as opposed to just like with Calm and Headspace, the sort of, you're just sitting there sort of trying not to think, which I don't know about you, but it's whenever I'm told not to think, I start thinking. But yeah, meditation can be great. And like know your trading processes and execute them consistently. So it's like, what time do you get to your desk? It's like, I always get to my desk between 6 and 6:15. It's like, you could set a watch by me. When do you do your markups? You know, do you do them after the session? Do you do them in the evening? Do you do them at the weekends? Whatever. How many hours back testing per week? How many hours do you watch content per week? Again, doesn't have to be an insane number. Pick a number that's sort of slightly challenging, but you can be consistent with. And just know your trading processes, because again, that if you're consistent with your trading processes, that's basically you telling your subconscious that, you know, I'm a consistent person, and then that's going to translate to being consistent in your actions in the market. So that is that. And then a bit of homework. Now this little tip is going to completely revolutionize your journaling if you apply it properly. So the homework or the exercise is you keep a notepad or a notes app, whatever you use, beside your trading station. I personally have a remarkable tablet. It's a pretty handy job. Probably will get an iPad again, purely because it's a bit more practical. But I have it sitting beside my desk, and then yeah, have that just sitting beside your desk, literally just ready to go. And then when you're entering a position, so your criteria is met, just note down how you're feeling about the trade and just some of the entry criteria. Just, it doesn't have to be like an essay, just like scribble down a few quick points. And then, you know, how do you feel? Like, do you feel calm and confident? Because like, that's a big one. It's like, we all know those no-brainer trades where it's like, you don't even have to think about it. It's like, if the order placed before you even think about it, like, they're the high probability trades. And like, invariably, you just feel completely calm and confident. You know, do you feel anxious? You know, are your thoughts racing, which again ties into anxiety? You know, is there any tightness in your body? How's your breathing? It's like, one thing I noticed is that whenever I would sort of be revenge trade or whatever, I basically noticed that my whole body be tense. I'd feel like I'd be sort of gripping the mouse sort of quite tightly, and like my thoughts were racing. And then I sort of learned, when I learned to sort of recognize that, it's like, that's whenever I sort of say, right, step away from the computer, you're going to do something stupid. And then I'll go downstairs, make a cup of coffee. Depending on what the session's looking like, I might just go away and do something else. Or if everyone's lined up quite nicely, I might sort of just come back in 5 minutes. And then when I come back after 5 minutes, I basically just back out to the 4 hour and then 15, just where are the POIs I want to trade from? identify them and then just focus on that, because that's gets you invariably when you like when Gree kicks in, you're too focused in the M1. So it's great to just step away from the screen and sort of then just zoom out, focus on higher time frames again. That's sort of, but then it was that like shortness of breath and like tightness in my chest that basically that's my signal whenever I'm about to do something stupid. So I learned, and you know, you might be the same, you might be slightly different, but it's like being aware of this. It's like the absolute key is to do this at the time of execution, because this will take your journaling to another level, because a lot of our emotional decision making happens at a subconscious level, and it's like you don't even realize you're doing it, because again, it's rooted in like basically the primal brain. So like if you're, say you take a trade and you're journaling it that evening, or you're journaling at the weekend, then you sort of, when you look back at it, like you don't sort of remember the emotions, because they're just, you know, they're subconscious, like, you know, you weren't consciously thinking of them. So you know, when you look back at them, you won't be aware of them. And then obviously confirmation bias can greatly affect your journaling process. So having information from before the outcome was known is invaluable. You know, again, we take a trade, it wins, and we're reviewing it, and it's all rosy. You know, oh, it's perfect, blah, 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 put it in the trading plan. But maybe there were negative confluences, maybe it wasn't that good a trade, but you're oblivious to them because it was a winner. And then, you know, when we review a losing trade, we only see the negatives, you know, why it didn't work out as opposed to why it was a good trade. So having that sort of information of, you know, what you were thinking, what you were feeling in the moment is invaluable to be able to look back when you're doing your, say, full journal, and just being able to look back and say, right, what was I feeling? I was like, oh, well, I was feeling a bit, my thoughts were racing. So it's like, maybe that's why I took a trade that wasn't that good a trade, because I was forcing things. But if you do this over a decent sample size, you should be able to spot some trends, particularly like if you have that experience where basically you take the losses in a row and, you know, you're operating from a place of greed. It's like, don't let the whole thing go to waste. It's like, learn from it. It's like, you know, what were you you know, if you journal your emotions when you were taking those trades, and you'll be able to look back and say, right, I was this, you know, right, I need to keep an eye out for that going forward. And like, you know, do we feel a shortness of breath and tightness in our chest when executing a position after taking a loss, as greed is kicked in and we want to make the money back? You know, how does your thought process differ when greed or fear is taken over? And again, if you have your little sort of journal of your emotions, your thoughts at that time, you'll be able to compare, you know, when you're in a good place and you're trading well, you'll be able to see, right, how was I thinking versus when you weren't trading well. So having that data, that information, like everyone sort of focuses on the technical data, but having that mental data is incredibly valuable. And then being able to spot the signs, that's like, you know, it's as simple as that there. It's like once you're able to spot the signs, then you'll be able to sort of stop yourself from going off the cliff and letting these emotions negatively affect your results. Because like I said, like whenever I feel the tightness in my chest, the thoughts racing a bit, I know that's my time to sort of step away from the screen for 5 minutes and then come back and reevaluate things. So yeah, just note down quickly, it doesn't have to be massive, how you're feeling. You know, I've given you some tips, like, you know, do you feel like, are your muscles tense? You short of breath, your thoughts racing, things like that there. And then just sort of, yeah, just understanding how they affect your trading. And then you know, it's equally as important noting all this stuff down as sort of noting down like basically the technical aspects and the, you know, the financial outcome of a trade. Because again, you know, in the same way you track the data, you know, you take 25 trades and you understand, you know, you optimize your basically your technical approach. You can basically learn from the data, your mental data, emotional data of over a similar sample size, and again, see how that negatively affects you, and learn to overcome it. If any of you are comfortable, if you feel comfortable doing this, I'd love for you to share basically your findings in the mindset channel in Discord, because again, I think like I love learning about this stuff, like, because again, you know, somebody else might have like a little tick, you know, a little sign that they're overtrading that I might be oblivious to, and then I may say, oh yeah, that affects me as well, and then, you know, we can all learn from that there, which ultimately is what Photon's all about, is we all learn and develop together. So just some quick recommended reading. If you were to read one trading book, I would say With Winning in Mind by Lonnie Bassam, even more so than Trading in the Zone, just because it's incredibly simple, it's incredibly concise, and very important lessons in it. Atomic Habits, James Clear, brilliant. The Little Things Become the Big Things, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, Joe Dispenza. That's where he goes through the meditations in that there as well. So if you're into that, yeah, Mark Douglas, obviously the classic text, Trading in the Zone and The Disciplined Trader, both brilliant. The Mental Game of Trading, again, brilliant. It's the modern sort of trading in zone, in my opinion, and it's a good bit more practical. And Mastery by Robert Greene, I read it recently, and it's brilliant because it basically goes through the stages and actually reaching true mastery, which is obviously the goal we're all pursuing, is true mastery. You know, it takes time, and you know, in an ideal world, everyone would be trading 400k FTMO after starting trading, you know, 6 months after starting trading, but it doesn't work that way. And you have to sort of, like whenever I got into trading, sort of probably had completely unrealistic expectations as to how long it would take me to get consistent. But you know, stuck with it, and I wouldn't change the journey for the world. Like, in my opinion, the journey is the most valuable thing I have. So yeah, understanding mastery and sort of that it takes time is very important. And that's me done rambling in almost an hour exactly. So let's start with any questions. There's some here in the chat box I'll go through. Tiago, I want to listen to this every day. Thank you. I don't know if I'd want to listen to myself every day, but thank you. When you say 6-7 losses in a row, are you talking about in the same day? Yeah, it's like it'll happen more when you're completely new and you're completely inexperienced, and like your technical edge hasn't advanced to the point where you can really filter out setups. But like, it's very easy, like when greed takes over, that you can take 6-7 losses in a row on the same day, maybe 2 days, 3 days, whatever, before you sort of snap out of it. So yeah, Lord, it is possible, particularly when you're executing the M1. Like, you know, you can literally see every M15 POI, every M1 chocks, like if you're hitting every one M, without sort of filtering out the higher probability POIs, you know, then it can easily happen. I'm going through a phase where I was barely profitable last month, but I know that I missed a few trades that would make it a very profitable month. So I decided to start this month taking every trade that fits my plan. But obviously, I think I'm starting with a losing streak. Yeah, Lord, you have the right idea. It's like, that's what one of the points I made is, like, if you have that sort of fear of the unknown or whatever, it's like, just drop your risk way down to whatever, and not, say you usually risk 1%, 0.5%, just drop it down and just focus on taking every trade that fits your plan for 20, 25, whatever sample size you want, and then look at it and you'll realize that you should be profitable. But yeah, Lord, I wouldn't get too disheartened to be taking 8 losses in a row. It's like the last sort of month has been very, very tricky in my opinion, so I wouldn't worry about that. But again, that's where it's like, whenever you sort of improve, that's whenever those 8 losses will become a break even or a -2, and you know, that's as meaningful as an improvement as making 20% a month. You know, it's like you're saving yourself 8 losses, which obviously eats into the equity curve over time. Nico, do what's easy, your life will be hard. Do what's hard, life will be easy. That's exactly it. Yeah, it's like, there's another great quote, was Jerzy Gregorek. He's a Polish strength coach. I read about him in one of Tim Ferriss's books, and he basically said, hard decisions, easy life, easy decisions, hard life. And yeah, it all ties in. It's like, that's it. It's like, you know, trading's hard, and it's like, if you expect it to be easy and you're not prepared for the hard road, it's like, you're going to get chewed up and you're going to get disheartened and you're going to end up eventually quitting. So you just have to be prepared for the battle and show up every day accordingly. Brian, I normally lose 10 trades in a row trading EU and AU, but by the end I bank a small profit in a month to break even. I wonder if this is normal. Yeah, that's the exact journey I went on. Like, whenever I transitioned to this strategy, like last May 2021, it's like, it literally blew my mind, because like, I was banking 10 or in a position, like it was nothing. Whereas previously, when I was executing in the 1 hour, I think my average winner was like 2.5 to 1 or something. So it's like, that's what blew my mind, is that I was learning the strategy. It was completely hopeless, but like, I was still making money every month purely just because I was banking those 2 or 3 winners, and it was incredible. But that's the most important thing, is that keep focusing on the winners but reducing the losses, because once you reduce the losses, then your profitability increases, and then you'll identify trends, you know, that you can start taking more winners as well. But definitely in the learning phase is completely normal. But it's good. It's like, I've seen a lot of people pass through Photon, and it's very dangerous, where they invariably pass through, they invariably don't stay around too long, where basically you'll see them post and say, oh, I took 7 losses in a row, but 1 winner has me back in profit. And it's like, they're posting this like every month, every couple of months. And yeah, it's true. It's absolutely true. It's like, you can be profitable with this strategy with a bad strike rate, but it's like, do you really want to deal with that drawdown on a funded account or on a large capital. It's like it's just not sustainable. So it's very important to sort of constantly be refining and sort of trying to weed out those losses. You know, why are you taking them? Is it mental? Is it technical? And sort of really getting to the bottom of it. Pablo, I definitely took value from everything discussed in the workshop. For me, the fear of losing is something I've had to work on together with creating habits that benefit me and my path to trader. I'm glad you've enjoyed it. Like, it's something different. Yeah, that's exactly it. Everyone has that fear of losing or fear of being wrong, and it can really inhibit your execution. And obviously, missing the winners hurts you as much as taking the losers. So, particularly with this a high or strategy, it's like I would argue that missing the winners is going to hurt even more. But yeah, and habits are key. It's like just show up every day, consistency in all parts of life, and consistency will come in the markets. Lloyd, it's tough on my mindset as I'm trying to stay with higher probable setups at the moment. I've had instances where I've stayed out of a winning trade that was low probability and then entered on high probability trades and took a loss. Then I find I start really hesitating in setups. Yeah, look, that's perfectly normal. It's like I see it every day in the Discord nearly, where it's like you'll see a low probability trade play out, and it's like you invariably see it when it plays out, but you don't hear about the 6 or 7 times that it doesn't. And yeah, like I don't know whether the markets have changed or whether I've just got more conservative in my old age. Like, I find myself just like passing on trades every day now, where it's like, yeah, it could play out, it's valid, but it's just not worth the risk. And the fact that like everyone can hit the winners is like, but being able to avoid the losers is equally as important in my opinion. So being able to filter out the lower probability trades, and particularly like if you want to trade larger capital, trade you know, proper capital with a prop firm, whatever, is like you're not going to be able to handle a low strike rate, and a low strike rate invariably comes from low probability trades. So it's up to you. Like, some people, I know some people in Discord that love being more aggressive and it suits their personality or whatever, but personally I would always go for sort of the slightly higher strike rate within reason, obviously. Definitely not rambling. This topic is not discussed enough. Thank you, David. Now tell us about this tactic. No problem, Ahmed. No, there might be some children tuning in. We better not tell too much. But yeah, no problem. It's my pleasure. I really enjoy doing it. As I said, it's a topic that's very close to my heart, very important, and I've put sort of a lot of time and effort into it over the last few years. So it's good to be able to sort of change some of the, or to share some of my findings. Would you show the book recommendations again? Yeah, no problem. That's it there. It'll be recorded and uploaded to the website. And then I've been meaning to put a post in the books channel on it about sort of my favorite trading books. So I might do that as well, because I know people are interested in reading. So that is that, guys. If anybody's any other questions, I'm happy to answer them. But if not, we can call it a day there.
It was definitely very, very good, David. Well done.
Thanks, Tomas. Well, as I say, if you enjoyed this sort of thing, it's like I'm happy like to sort of go more in depth, like do maybe like sort of a series over maybe bi-weekly over 10 weeks, whatever, sort of really delving into topics, like, you know, maybe doing up some worksheets and like, you know, we can all share our findings, etc. Sort of make it completely interactive. Like, I'm happy to do that if the interest is there. Mitchell, do you have a routine that puts you in the zone when you start trading, or it's just marking up? Usually I get up at about 5, 5:15. Then I go downstairs, make a cup of coffee, sit down, I'll read for about 10 minutes, or I'll read 10, try and get 10 pages in before I sort of go to the desk. I'll meditate during that time as well for about 15 minutes. So just reading and meditating, and then sort of sit down at my desk at about 6:15 and then start doing the markups. So yeah, I like my routine. Sort of, I've started getting up earlier recently, and it's been a game changer, sort of being able to get that out of the way pre-session, whereas I used to sort of, you know, I won't say fall to my desk sort of pre-session, but sort of get up out of bed and sort of go straight to the desk, whereas it is good to sort of feed the brain a bit with meditation and reading. It sort of gets you in the zone. But that's sort of my routine. Like, the most important thing is like, do what works for you, do what's sustainable. It's like, that works for me, it mightn't work for you. So like, don't get caught up in like these miracle mornings and like, oh, that you have to do these 5 things. It's like, just do what works for you, do what's sustainable, because like like that, my morning just sort of flows, you know, it doesn't feel like a challenge for me. Whereas, you know, for you, it might feel like a challenge. And if it feels like a real challenge, then it's going to be hard to stick to. So that's sort of my routine and how I see it. Yeah, definitely with winning in mind, it's like the best book about mental performance that I've seen. Like the concepts are incredibly simple, but they're applicable to everything in life. And it's like a lot of the self-help books sort of say the same thing in a lot more complicated way. So with winning in mind's one book I recommend for everyone. It's brilliant. Yeah, no, I will try and start putting more stuff in the mindset Discord, because it is something I'm sort of very interested in. And I know Dom put some stuff in there as well. He's sort of very clued in and all this stuff as well. So I will try and put more stuff in there. Tiago, David, would you agree that trading is like 80% mental or even more? I know that this idea gets thrown around. I do believe it's 80% purely because it's like you can change. Like I've sort of traded 3 or 4 different strategies in my 5 years trading, and it's like I genuinely believe now, having done that I could learn a new strategy in sort of 3 months and learn to execute it, because I understand that, right, the most important thing is mechanical rules. So if I can distill a strategy down in mechanical rules, then I should be able to execute it. So I think mindset is the most important thing, but obviously one without the other is completely pointless, as we sort of touched on. But I do think it is the most important thing, because I think you can change strategies, but it's like your mindset will be a constant no matter what you change, which is why I sort of would say that it is 80%. Enoch, I took a series of losses recently that really messed me up, especially because they followed my plan. How do you deal with taking blows like that? Look, it's always helpful to maybe take a couple of days away from the charts if you've had a rough time, because again, you know, when greed and fear, etc., manifest FOMO, you have to be at the charts to let them sort of kick in. So if you've had a rough time, it's always helpful to just take a couple of days away, because if you're not at the charts, you can't revenge trade. But yeah, I'd let the dust settle and I'd really review the trades, and sort of whenever the emotions have sort of dissipated slightly, and sort of really dig in, you know, did they fit your plan? Right? If it did fit your plan, then it's probably just the probabilities playing out. But then really dig into like why the trades didn't play out. What were was there any common characteristics across them? You know, was it just a straight chalk? Was there no flip? You know, did you take the flip that didn't sweep, and sort of try and identify the little technical cues, you know, the little technical improvements you can make. But yeah, definitely don't be afraid to take a few days away, and yeah, just let the dust settle, let the emotions dissipate, and then just review them and see if it's something you can learn. And if you want, you can chuck them in one of the Discord channels or whatever, and myself, Tomas, Matt, or somebody will have a look at them and maybe help you out with it if you want. Thank you for today, David. Yes, I'd like to join for more. Definitely interested. Yeah, well, I'll talk to Matt and Tomas and we'll see what the feedback is like in Discord. But definitely, I'm happy to do it because it is something I'm really interested in.
Thank you for your idea.
Thank you for your time. More videos about the mindset topic would be amazing. Yeah, videos are good, but I think the interactive nature of the workshops are quite good as well. Like particularly if we do get to the point where we're sort of doing individual topics and we've worksheets and doing sort of exercises, it'll be good to sort of get everyone in the room together, sort of sharing their thoughts. David, you should do a podcast. I reckon it will be popular. Jesus, there's yeah, it's something it's something that would be interesting doing, because like what would really appeal to me is sort of being able to interview people more successful than me and sort of, you know, pick their brains, understand what makes them tick, and then if other people would be interested in listening to it, then that would be incredible. But yeah, I'll put some thought into that. It's not something that I never really saw myself as a media man running, but yeah,
me too.
yeah, but yeah. So any other questions, guys, or we'll call it a day? Yeah, that's it, Sam. It's like it's my pleasure to share it. That's why I did it. It's like I hoped other people would take something from it. And yeah, Lord, everyone has to overcome their obstacles. Like, you know, everyone has different, you know, issues that might affect their self-image, that might lead to greed, fear, etc. So it's like, you know, you have two people and they're both messed up, but in different ways, essentially. So you know, it's something that affects everyone. And Yeah, no, well, I'll look at putting a series together then. I'll say it to Matt. And yeah, look, thanks everyone for listening. Hopefully it's found it valuable. And thank you for your time. So we'll call it a day there then.
Yeah, thank you guys for attending and David as well. Like really, really nice webinar.
Yeah, thanks Thomas. That means a lot coming from you. So I will chat to you soon, guys. I'll chat to you in the Discord or whatever. Goodbye.
Bye guys.